right after I started working for the town as a community development director, and then have gotten to know her much more since I've taken over the tourism. So, Sonia Kohlberg, she's based in Front Royal since 2005. She's been a successful grant writer, organizational development consultant, and nonprofit administrator for more than 20 years. Her client base is nationwide, prioritizing environmental, cultural, and educational nonprofits. She served as an adjunct professor or assistant professor in arts management at American University and at George Mason University. In 2005, she co-authored a toolkit for fundraising and resource development, which we probably should get a copy of that, with David Pritchett, published by the Community Development Partnership of West Virginia. She's a former Rotarian from Lake Forest, Lake Bluff, Illinois. She served as a trustee for the American Friends of Farnham, Alliance of Artists Communities, Samuel's Public Library, and the Art Table. Oh, and also the National Organization of Women in Management. She's a certified Virginia Master Naturalist and an Appalachian Trail through hiker, which you'll learn what that means. That was in 2000, so she's got the badge. She's a founding chair of the Front Royal Warren County Appalachian Trail Community Committee, and she holds an MFA in Art Theory and Practice from Northwestern University, an AAS in Fashion Design from Fashion Institute of Technology, and a BA in French from Knox College. So, Sonia, we welcome you.
And I'm so fashionable that I'm wearing a white blaze. Does everybody know what that means? White
Yes.
blaze is, marks the Appalachian Trail. Yeah, so if I could get a tattoo with that. So I'd forgotten about Happy Dollars. It's 20 years ago that I was a Rotarian. And if I had, please collect from me afterwards, remind me, okay?
All right.
Because my Happy Dollar is that I am not a second grade teacher. 2 weeks ago, I took the Rusty Jeffries second graders on a hike. Oh my gosh, it was an hour and a half. Their attention span is 90 seconds. You've got to get 90 seconds, then you can get another 90 seconds on something else, then another 90 seconds, and another 90 seconds. Then there has to be like a 10-minute break. 10-minute break. And everything has to be couched in great drama. Like, I'm going to tell you something no one knows. This plant has orange sap. No one else knows this.
Preach! Yes!
Yeah, exactly. This is coaching for you. And I had to start
Just
the whole thing.
identify Brian's attention span.
I like it.
Which is twice mine.
And I was gonna, we have this, I took him to Possum's Rest, which is you go up Chester Gap, and then it's a mile and a half round trip trail that goes up the Appalachian Trail, has a nice overlook, and then back down. And we have, the Appalachian Trail Community Committee has a quest for kids and families to go up there that teaches about nature. It has a lot of riddles and quizzes and things, and you can find it on the Visitor Center website. And I was going to do the quest with them. Well, as soon as I got off the bus, and they're like, miners. You know, did you see my drawing? Did you see my drawing? I'm like, how would I have seen your drawing? I've seen you before. You know. So I immediately thought, okay, we're not doing a quest. What I had to start out with, right here in the parking lot, we're going to talk about two things: poop and poison ivy. So, knowing that you're probably interested in the same thing, on your tables, I have some bookmarks. These are the last bookmarks left from our designation ceremony for the community in 2012, and they have leave no trace principles on them, one of which is dispose of waste properly, carry out trash, bury human waste 6 to 8 inches deep, and at least 200 feet from water. There you go. That's the poop. So anyway, I did actually speak to this Rotary Club about 9 or 10 years ago as a guest of Barbara's. Yeah, at the Apple House, yeah, exactly, which has just opened its new Bushel Bar. Have you all heard of that? George Ever Enterprises. So you leave and they put in a bar, you know. And at that time I talked more about my actual through hike in 2000, which that is the way I came to Front Royal. My hiking partner and I started in Harper's Ferry in 2000 and hiked south. We didn't want to be with the big mob going north, you know. And our first town stop was Front Royal. And we hitchhiked in on that very busy 532. Yeah. Someone gave us a ride after about a half mile of walking. And you know, the county is working on a trail now from the Appalachian Trail into town, which will make it a lot safer for hikers. And so we hitched into town and we stayed at the Scottish Inn. And I never even knew at that point that there was a downtown. I thought, well, this is it. And at the time, I was from Illinois. And apropos of nothing, I don't know why I thought this, but I distinctly remember thinking, maybe because it was just our first stop, and I remember looking around and thinking, I could probably live here. I was from Illinois. And here I am. And you know, we went through many, many other towns on the Appalachian Trail, and I never thought that again. I never, you know, maybe, like I said, maybe it's just our first town stop. And so it's just the strangest thing that now I've been living here for 12 years. But I love living near the trail, near the Shenandoah Park, and that is why I live here. I became fascinated with the Appalachian Trail when I was about 12 years old. And I checked out a book at the library from the adult section about this trail. And it was reminiscences by lots and lots of different through hikers. And you know, a through hiker is someone who hikes the entire trail, which is 2,200 miles long, in 1 year. You can do it in chunks, but you have to finish it in a year. And I got fascinated because I read these reminiscences, and here's how they went. Got chased by bear. Lost all my food. Rained on for 5 days. Broke my ankle. And I was like, this is for me. I didn't you know, not big. 25 rattlesnakes on it. But my hiking partner and I, and she is my oldest friend. We've known each other since 7th grade. And I asked her to go with me because I knew there would be no surprises, and indeed there weren't. She hates to sweat. And I hate to sweat. And so it took us 8 months. She's 5'2", I'm 5'10". Somehow we never took that into consideration, that her mile was going to be a lot slower than my mile. So you know, we hiked south to Georgia, and then we went north. We flew up to Boston, and then a friend drove us up to Katahdin in Maine, and we started hiking south again, and we finished in December. So it's a good thing we did it the way we did it, back in Harper's Ferry in the snow, in about 1.5 feet of snow. So anyway, so I have a little PowerPoint here for you, and maybe we could turn out lights a little bit so you can see what we're doing. These are drawings from kids, local kids. I think these are from the 4th graders a few years ago, from Russie Jeffries. And just some general factoids about the Appalachian Trail. Some things people don't know are that the Appalachian Trail protects it's the longest conservation corridor east of the Mississippi. And it has a 250,000 acre land base, which is kind of small, I think. But that protects 1/3 of the source waters of our drinking water on the East Coast. So it's important. It's an important conservation corridor. And yeah, many people don't realize that. It gets about 3 million visitors a year, and you know, it's hard to tell because there are so many entry points, and how do you measure all that? And it is the oldest continuously operating volunteer conservation project in America. So the trail is coming in on its 90th anniversary, and it's gone through Front Royal that entire time. So A little bit about the trail and how it got started. It is a fascinating, it has a fascinating history. This man, Benton Mackay, doesn't usually have all those spots all over him, but Benton Mackay was the visionary he was a forester that came up with the idea for an Appalachian Trail. And his idea was he looked ahead and he saw this was right after it was in the 1920s, and he could see that cities were expanding and suburbia was expanding, and that people were going to need recreation, and they were going to need to get away from cities and suburbs and get out in a place back to nature where they could recreate and rejuvenate spiritually and physically. And so he never thought of the Appalachian Trail as a remote place. It was someplace that was supposed to be accessible to a lot of people, so along the eastern seaboard. And he really saw it as a levee against sprawl. He didn't call it sprawl back then, but that's the way it was perceived. And his idea was never just a trail. It was always about communities and about having volunteers and work camps where people could go and do trail work or community gardening or just commune with nature. And eventually, and that is the phase at which the Appalachian Conservancy, which manages the trail, is right now. And that's why the AT Community Program was started, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. So he also, we all know the term regional planning. He is the person that originated that phrase. And it was in regards to the Appalachian Trail. The Appalachian Trail was called a project in regional planning. So he is the founder. Now, he was a visionary and a dreamer. So the guy that actually built the trail was this guy, Myron Avery, who was an attorney in Washington, D.C. from Maine, really charismatic, hard-going, go, build that trail kind of guy. And he founded the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club. You have a membership brochure on your table. And they manage about 1,000 acres of trail in a four-state area, including about 250 miles of the trail. So, and they're the ones that really drove the trail to completion. Okay, through hiking. Everybody's always fascinated with the through hikers. The through hikers only make up about 1 to 1.5% of all the people hiking on the trail, but everyone seems to think about the through hikers. And it is still a fairly elite group. I think there have only been about 15,000 through hikers that have completed the trail since its inception. And when you think about that as the population of Front Royal. So, if everybody in Front Royal hiked the trail, that would be it. That's all the people that hike the whole thing.
Next year.
Well,
You can leave.
Fundraiser.
yeah, there you go.
Pay per mile.
And this gentleman here, Earl Schaefer, was the first person to hike the trail from end to end. And what many people don't know is he had planned, he was a kind of a hermit type guy, very introverted, from Pennsylvania. He and his best friend had heard about this trail running not far from their house, their community, and they were like, well, we're going to hike that thing. Well, then World War II happened. They both served in World War II. The friend was killed. And after the friend, Earl Schaefer decided to hike the trail from end to end to heal the psychic wounds of war. And many people don't realize that the first person to through hike was doing exactly the healing that Benton Mackay had originally intended. So, and he hiked it 3 times. The last time was in 1998, and the year that I was hiking, he was also on the trail, just a little ahead of us. That was really something. Then I have Grandma Gatewood here, because she was the first woman to through hike the trail. She hiked it also 3 times. She didn't hike it until she was 67 years old. She hiked it, yeah, get this.
So can
She hiked it. Again, she also had a story of trauma. She married at age 19. She married a 27-year-old primary school teacher who beat her regularly and brutally for about 40 years of marriage before she finally was able to get a divorce. And she had, during that time, she was from Southern Ohio, Appalachia in Ohio, and when, she would seek solace in the woods, and she had a whole lot of kids, and so when she was divorced and when she was 67 years old, she had read about the trail in National Geographic, and it sounded like this place with, it has these three-sided shelters all along the way, but she interpreted that as like huts, or little cottages or something. So she thought, oh, it sounds like a lark. That sounds really fun. I'll go on that trail and I'll stay in these lovely little cottages all the way. And so I'm used to the outdoors, so she wore Converse sneakers. Yeah. And she made her own, she made a duffel bag out of denim that she carried. She carried a shower curtain as a, the plastic shower curtain as a tent. She wore, and she had a raincoat, and that was about, and it was a lot harder than she thought. But she said,
She did it 3 times.
she did it 3 times, and she hiked the Oregon Trail. Yeah, exactly, to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the state of Oregon. So this is all after age 67. So, there's still hope. But she said the funniest thing. She said, she was a woman of few words, and she said, for some fool reason, they always lead you right up over the biggest rock to the top of the biggest mountain they can find. And that is true. It seems like the trail planners, when you're out there, especially in Maine where there are no switchbacks, here there's switchbacks. Oh, is it luxurious? You get to Maine, it's all straight up, and if you've lost your toenails, you lose your fingernails in Maine. And I think the way that they planned the trail, they took a bowling ball up to the top, released it, and that's where the trail went. So these are our inspiration. And then these are just, a lot of through hikers at our own trail crossing at 522. This was on National Trails Day a couple of years ago, just a variety of people out there. This is before and after on our own hike. This is before in Harper's Ferry and on the same location 8 months later. Yeah, look, we're sort of leaning on each other. And boy, did we learn a lot in the process. You can't really see in this picture, but my backpack goes up to about here. And we're not wearing our packs here, but if I were wearing it, you wouldn't even see it. I mean, we learned. You get rid of that stuff. So, and then this is the way it looks at Springer Mountain and Mount Katahdin. And what I notice here is how skinny I am. I mean, really, like skinny. And then this is only about a week later. And we'd been in Boston for a week recovering with a friend, and I had gained probably another 10 pounds back in Boston. But the coolest thing on Springer Mountain in Georgia, which is the southern terminus, there is a silver drawer in a rock. And you open the drawer, and there's a logbook in there. And you either sign in if you're at the beginning of your journey or if you're at the end. But it's a really moving moment. And one of the saddest thing, which I didn't know I would feel this way, when I got to that point, that's the last blaze, or the first blaze if you're going north, and it took me to tears to think that was, I mean, fortunately we were going up to Maine and going to start all over again, but it was very moving to be there. So, just a few pictures from our hike. It's an incredibly, the two things that I remember the most from the trail are the complete freedom. You are free. I mean, you have everything on your back and you are free. And it's rare in our lives that we are really free. I mean, I could have left the trail and gone anywhere, during that time. But to be completely free and out of touch. I mean, we didn't have cell phones. People had cell phones, but not really, And so we didn't have cell phones. And there isn't, you can't get connected in a lot of places on the trail anyway. But it's this enormous sense of freedom. And the beauty, the beauty is just, it makes you realize like, I realized how much energy I spend blocking out the ugliness of our strip malls and the way that we build and what we do to our landscape. And I could feel this release of energy. I mean, this took a while, like a couple of months to realize this, that everywhere I was looking was beautiful, you know? It's really a beautiful place, a beautiful world. And it's so safe out there. It's, the ethos of the trail is extremely high. And before I went, I studied every murder that had ever happened on the trail. Because I didn't want to be caught. You know, I wanted to understand, like, why did they happen and how could I avoid them? You know, and I'm from Chicago. I mean, I have street sense. And, you know, so, but we never, and so in the beginning, of course, I was like, you know, but I soon learned that, like, everyone was, you know, a retired policeman, you know, a Girl Scout leader or a Boy Scout leader. I mean, it just, the ethic out there is extremely high. And the people who live along the trail and to help the hikers, I mean, people were extraordinarily kind to us, offering us things even when we weren't even asking. I mean, I remember this one guy driving along. We were walking into town, we had our packs, and this really old guy, a beat up pickup truck, he slows down, he's kind of driving at our speed, you know, and he's rolling with the goes, you need a ride? Oh, no, thanks, we're just walking home. Want me to carry your packs? No, it's okay. Need some ice cream? People are just so kind. At one point, my hiking partner had gotten poison ivy and a bee sting on her ankle, and we had to take a couple days off, and you know, so she could get over that and get her boot back on. And we ended up, don't ask me how, at a greenhouse. And these greenhouse people, we stayed out in the greenhouse. I mean, they allowed us to camp and everything, got all set up, blah, blah, blah. You know, they were so nice to us. And we got settled in for the night. They had all left for the day. And they came, and about an hour later, the van from the greenhouse pulls screeching into the parking lot, and the owner jumps out and he says, "I'm so sorry, I forgot to leave you the van and the keys to the van." Okay. So people were just so kind to us. And I try to pay that forward. You know, when I see through hikers having breakfast, for example, I will pay their bill and just not say anything. You know, it's people were just, it really restores your faith in humanity to be out there. And the typical through hiker, people are surprised at what the typical through hiker spends about $130 to $160 in town. So it's, you know, that is something, if you're a business owner, that's something to take into consideration. The average hiker is somewhere between 25 and 36 years of age, which doesn't surprise you. I turned 43 on the trail myself, and 18% are over the age of 55. Most people are out there because they're in some transitional point. They've either just quit a job, they've just gotten over a disease, they've just gotten divorced, they've just gotten married, they've just graduated from college, they've just started a career, they've just ended a career, they just retired, they've gotten out of the military, you know. And that is true. You see babies through hiking. They don't carry them the whole way. Little babies.
I would pay for that.
To say nothing of weight loss, right? So I don't know if you can see it here, but this is an outhouse that's the only two-seater on the trail. It has a cribbage board in between. And it's called the Your Move. I don't know if that's movement or... So there's a lot of humor out there, and there are log books at the shelters all along the way, and hikers have trail names, and they leave each other notes, and my trail name was Shirako, and that's how you sign everything, that's how you introduce yourself to people. So that's the culture out there. the Appalachian Trail, I tend to think of it as a 51st state. It has its own government. It's a very complex organization. There are 30 clubs that maintain the trail, 6,800 volunteers maintain the trail every year, giving about 200,000 hours of service. The Appalachian Trail Conservancy, which manages the trail, has about 40,000 members, including about 150 here in Warren County. The trail is run by a partnership. It's part of the National Park System since 1968, and it is also the most biodiverse unit in the National Park System. And so there's a National Park office as well, Appalachian Trail office. It runs through 6 national parks and 8 national forests, and then countless state-owned public lands as well. The AT Community Program was launched, I think, in 2012, and we were one of the first communities to be certified. You do have to meet specific criteria, just like you do for Main Street USA or Tree City USA, and we do have signs on the edge of town that indicate that we're an Appalachian Trail community. There are now 45 communities along the trail that are certified, and we all, each of our communities has a committee, and we're sort of a pseudo-government committee. In other words, if the town and county weren't signed on to the program, we wouldn't be here. There would be no reason for us to exist. So that is a proclamation that they do. And part of the AT Community Program was started to thank the many communities that have hosted the trail for almost a century now. And also to act as a catalyst for sustainable economic development, and I think Felicia could attest to the fact that it has worked.
Yes.
We do have businesses here because of the Appalachian Trail and because of the community committee and all the work that we've done. The Front Royal Trolley stops out at the trail crossing twice a day during peak hiker season, so for 3 months. We do a lot of activities, especially on National Trails Day, which is the first Saturday in June, and National Public Lands Day, which is the last Saturday in September. And of course, I hike with the second graders. A dubious honor. So this was our designation in 2012. We had a full day festival. The rain held off until 3 o'clock, perfect for us. And about 500 people attended. It was really we had a lot of activities and a lot of pomp and circumstance as well. A lot of great community supporters. This is the AT Community Supporter Program. It's part of AT Communities, and it's for locally owned, locally managed businesses that support the trail. And there are many ways that the trail can be supported. You don't have to be a trail-related business. You could be a dry cleaner or a hair salon. It doesn't matter. But there are different ways to, so it gives you co-branding with Appalachian Trail and a national platform. And there are a lot of benefits to that. And there are applications on each of the tables too, if any of you want to take one with you, with my contact information at the bottom so I can talk you through it. We now have 18 AT community supporters, and one of our most recent additions is the Front Royal Brewing Company on Main Street, which has, I don't know how many people know this, but it has a base camp for thru hikers. So if you've been in that building, there's a long hallway before you get to the bistro and the brewery at the end. And there's a door to the left that has a combination lock, and it is for thru hikers. It has a washing machine and a dryer and a shower. You'll all be happy to hear that. and lockers for hikers if they want, to leave their big packs while they go do all their errands in town.
And they're industrial washer and dryer, so for the backpacks, their sleeping bags, anything oversized that they've got.
Yeah.
The 3 businesses are actually paying to support that: Mountain Trails, the brewery, and the bakery. So anybody goes in there, they get a passcode, and then they have access to all of that for free of charge. It's amazing the word of mouth that we are getting, the town of Front Royal is getting, one because of the trolley, and now because of this base camp coming into town. So it's a wonderful asset for our community.
And every 2 to 3 years there is an AT Community Summit. So all the Mid-Atlantic communities get together. There was just one this spring, and Felicia was on a panel about trail-related tourism and promoting the trail for tourism. We are considered a model community along the trail, and part of the reason for that is the Hike a Mile, Share a Smile campaign, which launched on Saturday. And this is a campaign that if you go out on the trail and have your picture, take a selfie with a white blaze, not this one. Then you register it at the visitor center. You do have to go to the visitor center in person. And you receive these coupons from trail-friendly businesses, and they are really good coupons. You will gain weight losing these and have to go hiking. There's a free 6-pack of apple donuts from the Apple House with a purchase of any size. I said to George, "Are you sure? Like, what if I came and I got a pencil eraser?" He goes, "I don't care. You get in here, and you know, you go in there. It's a vortex." And then there's also, at the brewery, there's a free dessert with any entree. Free popcorn at Royal Cinema. So, like I said, eat your way through Front Wood. And this campaign is going to run through September 29th, which is National Public Lands Day. There's also further instructions to qualify you for a grand prize drawing, which is a free night at Skyland Lodge. And I don't know if you've been to Skyland recently, but you know how it used to be sort of a 1960s throwback with moldy grout and all that? 2 years ago, they remodeled it, and now it's a sort of a prairie style, like Frank Lloyd Wright style. It's beautiful. So that's a very nice, nice prize to have gotten from the park. And you see me there with Dan the Man Murray, who's a great trail supporter. And oh, I'm so sorry you can't see this. This is on another outhouse on the trail in Maine. Latch the door when leaving, or porcupines will eat this building. And it is true. So one other thing I would like to say before I let you go or answer questions is that the Appalachian Trail is very much focused on Benton MacKay's final vision of a trail not just being a trail, but also being part of communities and activities along the way that bring people to the trail to celebrate and rejuvenate. And I'm sad to say that the Shenandoah Valley is considered one of the 10 most threatened landscapes along the Appalachian Trail. The corridor is very narrow here, you know, sometimes only a matter of like 15 feet. And development means that we are seeing houses and Chick-fil-A and whatever, you know, all along the trail. And that's not the experience that we want people to have. So we need to keep that in mind. So anyway, sorry to end on that note, but yes.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
What's the fastest time somebody